Hello once again to those of you that have just joined. And maybe don't know me, I'm Robb, CEO and founder of Mass Participation World. Delighted to be your host for this, the last World Athletics webinar for 2025. We've got about a 2 hour and 15-minute show, jam-packed speakers from across the globe as always, and a really exciting program. So just a little bit of housekeeping. If you've got any questions or conversations, put them in the chat or the Q&A. We'll be monitoring that in the studio. I'm coming to you from Bali, where I'm based in the studio here. As I mentioned, over 450 people registered. We're streaming live on Facebook on the Mass Participation World Facebook page. So if you have to drop off, you can come back and pick up the live stream. We're also live streaming, as we always do, into China. A big thanks to Julia Cui, Jerry and Qingling from the team there at CGX Consulting. And of course, we are recording, so we will make the recording available afterwards. We don't have a lot of decks tonight. It's mostly conversations, one deck, which we will share with you afterwards. And let's get underway with the program for tonight. So once I finish, I'll be delighted to be welcoming Wayne Larden, and we'll be speaking about celebrating the 7-star, the resounding success of the TCS Sydney Marathon. We'll then move on to a segment, Cape Town Spotlight, host of the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships 2027. From there, we'll move to a panel section, which I'll be hosting, the year in review, global updates. And we have 5 speakers from literally right across the globe to give us some insights of what they've seen and a bit of crystal ball gazing for next year. We then are hoping that Alessio is going to join us, Alessio Punzi, who needs no introduction. He's on the road today, but he's hoping to join in to give us a World Athletics global updates. We'll then go into a segment on the global explosion of running clubs, which has had a major contribution to the running scene across the globe. We're going to do a session there hosted by Natacha Manchado from World Athletics. And then we're going to wrap it up. It's conference season coming up, and also conferences for next year. There's an exciting lineup of conferences, so we're going to share some insights into those. But let's then get underway in our first segment today, and I'm delighted as I drop my papers on the floor here to welcome Wayne Larden, the race or event director of the TCS Sydney Marathon presented by ASICS. Are you with us there, Lardy? If you'd like to turn your camera on and your microphone, it'd be great to see you on screen.
Yeah, I'm here. Can you see me?
There you are. I can see you there. Wonderful. Great to see you. Welcome.
You should have you could have invited me live to your studio in Bali, I think, Chris, next time. That might be a good way to do this. I'd happily
open invitation, mate. You're always welcome, and let's make that a date for next year. And I mean, it would only be fair to reciprocate, because I was very fortunate to have your amazing hospitality in Sydney and resounding success. Congratulations. It was a huge success. And why don't we start by just hearing it from your perspective? What were some of the highlights of this year's event?
I mean, look, the whole week was a highlight. We were a bit, I wouldn't say anxious, but we wanted to deliver our first Abbott World Marathon Major with impact. So, hit it with a bang to start off with. So, a lot of thought went into, how we can create a really amazing experience for the runners from the time they got off the plane until we said goodbye to them and put them back on the plane. So really engage with them throughout the whole week. We had programs running, what we called a business engagement program, where we had about 70 businesses who offered up great discounts, themed their restaurants. We had this cool new app, we sort of gamified our business program where people could earn coins by dropping into the different businesses involved in the program. We borrowed an idea from Berlin Marathon and implemented Meet the Stars on the Friday night. And that was on the forecourt of the Opera House, right where the finish line is, because we were set up early this year to put on the family run on the Saturday. So we thought we'd make use of the facilities on the Friday night. And I was sort of expecting a few thousand people to turn up, and we got out of the car and walked down the blue carpet along the finish chute. And the straight of the finish chute was packed. So I got out of the car and thought, wow, this is amazing. Just what I wanted. And I sort of walked through and got to the finish line, and the entire Opera House forecourt and stairs were packed. It was really amazing. It was an incredible night. We had our great, international elite athletes there, our great Aussie athletes there, and we interviewed them right under the finish line, right in view of all of the, mass participants. And it was just a really fun night. It was a beautiful night, a nice, clear, warm night. And, the athletes who were, visiting from overseas got the opportunity to hear from the super elites like Ellie and like Sifan, and then just get to know them a little bit better. We had a fireworks show, and it was just an amazing start to an incredible weekend that just everyone loved. So that was a really good kickoff. Expo was great. Worked well. We're at the ICC, which is right in the city, and that all went nice and smoothly. Good, fast times through registration area into the expo itself. So that all went well. We had our first Saturday event, which was the mini marathon 5K, and that enabled people to finish at the Opera House finish line, so the marathon finish line, which was good to bring them back to the big finish. We had about 10,000 runners in the 5K, which was good. And then moving into the Sunday, our biggest field ever. So, the event, as you know, Chris, has grown a lot. Back from when you were involved, I think in 2001, I took over in 2005, and there were 1,280 finishers in the marathon. I think in 2021, or 2009, and before COVID, we had just under 5,000 runners in the marathon. And 2022, we joined the Abbott World Marathon Majors candidacy program, and even that year we had 5,300 finishes. So we've had really strong growth, 13,823, 22,000 or 23,000 in 2024, and this year we're at 33,000 finishes in the marathon. So incredible growth. A lot has changed through candidacy, a brand new course, a number of changes that happened each year. But this year, the course is pretty well what it will be. It's about as good as it's going to get. The New South Wales government have been really great in supporting all of the changes we needed to make through candidacy. But, with changes, there's something new every year. You're always a little bit nervous that things might not go as smoothly as you want them to. But we were lucky. Like leading up to the race this year, Sydney had record rainfall. Like we had solid rain for 2 months before the race. In fact, the Saturday before the race, it stopped raining for the first time, literally in a couple of months. I took my son, got out in the car, and said, "I've got to check this and every meter of this course." And we logged on video and photo the whole course of something like 120 potholes that had to get filled race week. And these weren't little potholes. These were potholes that would break legs and puncture elite athletes' wheelchairs, tyres and stuff like that. So there was a lot of work that was done with the local councils and the New South Wales government to get the course, fully up to speed before race weekend. So it was a nervous week in that regard, but everyone sort of pitched in. And, race day itself, beautiful, cool weather, which we don't always get. An incredible field of elite athletes. We recruited really sort of strategically, Chris, because, whilst we were on paper a world major, as I reminded my staff, a couple of months before the race, you get picked in the Olympic team, you get your tracksuit. We had our hats and everything with the number 7 on it, but we hadn't stepped onto the track. So we weren't actually Olympians, or we weren't actually an Abbott World Marathon major until we delivered that race. So that was just a good reminder for the team. Right, let's stay focused. Let's deliver something that's incredible, and let's show the world that Sydney is rightfully the 7th Abbott World Marathon major, and it couldn't have gone better. Honestly, everything went so smoothly, and the feedback we got was, incredible. Like, the NPS scores through candidacy have grown like 40, 60. I think this year NPS score was something like 76. Now that's getting up into a really, really powerful sort of area of participant experience, which is great. So race week, race weekend, race day, all went exactly to plan. And now, the problem is when you do something, so well first up, it's like, how do we go better next year? So that's the sort of the things we're pondering at the moment. But yeah, great start. I'm really happy that we delivered something with an Australian feel, had our own identity, did a few things different. The participants loved it. The city was buzzing. You were in Sydney during the Olympics in 2000, Chris. The city that week was just, it was marathon week. It felt like an Abbott World Marathon Majors city, and, it was buzzing. Everyone was happy, friendly. And, I think based on the feedback we got in the survey, all of the runners were extremely happy. So, and that's been reflected post-race with our ballot numbers this year too. So, mate, a great start, but we want to do more. We want to do it better, and that's what we're firmly focused on now.
Brilliant. And clearly you're in control of the weather, because I was lucky enough to do the behind the scenes tour, which was very nostalgic for me, going up to the start at North Sydney Oval and the like. And it was pretty windy, and there were, barricades being blown over, and obviously you got control of that, and the rain as well. And you mentioned there, 120 potholes, working with partners. You've clearly got some amazing partners. You got Destination New South Wales. You're obviously well branded there with TCS and ASICS, and a number of other government partners, which obviously impossible to make these things work as successfully as you have without great partnerships. Talk to us a little bit about those partnerships and some of the key elements of how you've built that with the partnerships.
Yeah, I mean, look, the most important partnership, look, obviously TCS and ASICS and our other commercial partners are extremely important, but as it relates to being able to implement fundamental change and having, the support to do what you want to do in Australia's busiest city, the New South Wales government are vital strategic partner of ours. And in fact, they fully funded the candidacy process, which was great. And we've had a really strong partnership for a long time, but that excitement that came with being sort of put into the candidacy program, and the prospect of Sydney potentially being part of the greatest marathon series in the world, really brought not just Destination New South Wales, which is the tourism arm of the New South Wales government, but it brought all of the government agencies together with this clear vision and excitement to bring the world majors to Sydney, because they knew the impact that would have on the city, not just as a one-off event like some championships are, but forever in perpetuity. So there was really strong support led by, the senior politicians within government, and then the departments that, are crucial in terms of being able to deliver an event, like Transport for New South Wales as a good example, the police, ambulance, and, those key government stakeholders. They put in a hell of a lot of work, alongside us. Like, they're part of the team. So that's a crucial element, and probably the most important element, given the fundamental changes that we needed to make. So, and now we are a major, the New South Wales government, and the outcomes that we've sort of delivered this year, and just looking through some of the data now, is absolutely incredible. So everyone's done a ton of work to get us there, shared the vision, and now are extremely happy with the sort of outcomes and the visitor number growth and the spending growth, and everything else. So, all of that work that's gone into it is starting to pay off. So it's great. We've got a great partnership with them, as you need to have to deliver a proper World Majors event on a World Majors style course. So, and then you've got ASICS, you've got TCS, two great brands who are firmly committed to running globally, not just here. And they work really closely with us too. And they've got a big part to play in participant experience and everything else. So, partnerships are really important. Government partnerships, though, are absolutely crucial.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, you mentioned Sydney, the vibe of Sydney, and part of what you benefit from was that amazing legacy of Sydney with the government agencies working together, that whole can-do cooperative approach. You mentioned impact there, and I was on a call with Jeff Adams, the president of Marathon Tours and Travel, a couple of nights ago, and he was sharing some of the numbers, which was staggering. I mean, I've been around the traps a while, but I was just amazed at some of the numbers, the growth, the impact that was being created. Share some of the numbers that you can with us, just to give people a bit of a sense, the raw numbers, but also the incredible growth that's being created. And it's kind of amazing. We look at this, recognizing that on this call, we got from Abbott World Marathon Majors down to small events. And I'm amazed how often I go to events that have been around for a while that have no inbound tourism program. I was just at an absolutely amazing event in the Maldives a couple of weeks ago. Event been going for 16 years, incredibly well executed, great destination, but no proactive marketing. Great people and all great intention. But tell us a little bit about that journey that's relevant to you, but also spin it in a way that's going to be useful to people on this call that may not have a tourism program.
Yeah, I mean, part of the reason and strategy behind the New South Wales government supporting this event obviously is to promote tourism and get people visiting Sydney for as long as we can, get them to stay. And the good thing and bad thing about being so far away is, well, the bad thing is it takes a fair while to get there and you're tired when you land. But the good thing is when people do make that journey, they want to stay for a lot longer, right? So the visitor dwell time, if you want to call it that, is a lot longer than normal. Having a travel program, and maximizing the number of inbound visitors to an event, is crucial if you want that sort of government or the sort of government support that we have. But you sort of got to know what you're doing, and we don't, and we didn't. So therefore, it's important to partner with someone who does. And Marathon Tours and Travel, Jeff and his team are incredible and got a lot of experience and do a lot of work with a number of other Abbott World Marathon Majors and events all around the world. So we strategically partnered with Jeff and Marathon Tours and Travel, and they run our travel program for us. So we work together strategically. There's some key markets that Destination New South Wales are interested in ensuring people from those countries are here. So there's a bit of focus in certain areas. But, to talk about the success of the program, last year, or this year, sorry, we had 23,500 hotel rooms booked through the travel program. We've got 36,000 rooms booked already. That's part of our block for the travel program next year. But overall, so that's sort of the travel program through Marathon Tours. But then you've got people who obviously book their own rooms. And this year, bed nights, we had 267,000 bed nights. Now, that's a really big number. And they're staying for, the internationals are staying over 6 days. So if you think about, I've got the data here actually, so I'm just going to pull it up very quickly. So the international runners this year, so that I think it was what did we have in the marathon? 13,923 international marathon runners only. They bring on average 1.36 people with them. So the international visitors goes from 13,923 up to 32,858 people who are flying into Sydney from overseas, and they're staying on average 6 nights. So there's 187,000 room nights with the international marathon runners and entourage alone. Your interstate runners, so those from other states, we had in the marathon 9,554 who brought 1.48 people with them. So 23,690 visitors from interstate who stay 3 days. So 65,000 room nights there. So it very quickly, the number of runners you have very quickly gets amplified when you start counting the non-running visitors who come with them. And great thing, as I said before, 24-hour flight if you're from Europe or the North America, you're staying for a week on average. Some are staying a lot longer too, but the economic impact of that is incredible. Like before we were a world major, we were doing all right. Like we were getting a few thousand people in from overseas each year. The economic impact was probably the highest it would have been about $20 million a year. And by our calculations, we're well over about $120 million this year in economic impact. So That's incredible growth in just a few years. And that's just visitor spend. That's not overall event impact, right? That's just looking at the dollars that they spent. And these are numbers they told us in our survey, so they're pretty solid numbers. So from an investment perspective with government, from Destination New South Wales, and an impact perspective for the event, joining the Abbott World Marathon Majors has had a huge impact, a huge positive impact. So that's great. So we wouldn't have been able to do that without the support of Jeff and the Marathon Tours and Travel team. The allocation to travel program and also charity program is increasing each year. They're important elements of the event, but demand is continuing. Like, we were a bit worried, that people would get excited and want to run in our first year as an Abbott World Marathon Major. Last year, we did our first ballot. We had 79,000 people apply. This year, we closed our ballot only a couple of weeks ago. We closed our ballot and finished up with about 124,000 people register in the ballot. So we're maintaining strong interest, which is good. It's looking good for moving forward. We're increasing our numbers next year. We're going to do it, I won't say organically. We're going to take small incremental increases to make sure we can digest the growth. Because as soon as you start making things bigger, it puts demands on your field of play, on your resources, on your volunteers, and you can't just grow the numbers without growing your volunteer program and everything else. So, whilst we had 124,000 people register and we could take 50,000 through or more, we didn't want to do that. So we had 33,000 on the finish line this year. The goal for next year is 40,000. So we're sort of planning, we've taken enough registrations through to hopefully achieve that. And we'll take those sort of jumps with slightly more focus on allocation to charity and travel, and increases to ballot entries as well. So it's all heading in the right direction. But we want to make sure that 70 something number in NPS remains where it is. So, you just got to carefully plan growth, and that's what we're doing.
Brilliant. We've got about 2 minutes left. Crystal ball, you've shared some of the things for next year, but, what do you see if you look down the track, in any key things to look out for?
Yeah, look, other than managing growth, there's still a key difference between us and the other world majors at this point in time, and that is the number of spectators on the course. Now, being in New York last week, that's incredible. Same whenever you go to London and most of the other world majors. But we did focus a lot this year on trying to get people out of their houses. We very strategically invested in recruitment of Elliot and Sifan because, we knew as soon as they got off that plane, all of Australia's media would be wanting to talk to them. And, all of Sydney and Australia would know that two of the greatest runners of all time would be running through the streets of Sydney on the Sunday of race day this year. And it worked. We spent a lot of money marketing the race, marketing those superstars, and for families to bring their kids out, see the greatest athletes in the world and be a part of this Abbott World Marathon Majors journey, and let them know, actually, you guys are a part of this. This is your race. The spectators on the side of the race are as important as the runners, and anything that we do. So we're trying to build that culture within Sydney, and also the runners from around Australia come and cheer on their friends. So there's a lot of time and effort being spent now on how do we make sure we get them back out next year and grow that spectator number. So that's probably one of the biggest things. And again, it's all around. There's a lot of operational changes. You've got to increase everything along the way, but there's a lot of thought going into that. How do we build the support base for the race moving forward? So that's probably one of the biggest things we're looking at.
Wonderful, mate. So great to see you as always. It's 11:30 at night in Sydney. Really appreciate it. So wonderful to see your passion pouring through the screen, mate, and you deserve every success. I know you've worked so hard over the years, and your team, you've got an amazing team behind you. Couple of key takeaways for me from there. Clearly, the value of government. Without those kind of partnerships, very, very difficult to make it work. The importance of recognizing that you need to turn to an expert for some elements of it. So you put your hand up, didn't understand, all the nuances of the travel. You partnered with a great partner there, and look at the impact that it's made. The importance of not resting on your laurels, continually looking to improve those standards, and then that building that whole culture of community and getting those fans out and the supporters so the city owns it. Great takeaways. Rest well, and look forward to seeing you again soon. Thanks so much, Wayne.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, everyone.
Cheers, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye.
As we say goodnight to Wayne, we move on to our next segment, which is Cape Town Spotlight, host of the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships in 2027. We welcome Natacha Manchado, the running project manager of World Athletics, who's a huge supporter and does a lot of work in helping put these webinars together. Hello, Natacha. Great to see you.
Hello, Chris. Hello, everyone. Yeah, very, very happy to be here in this webinar again.
Wonderful. And we're going to hand over to you in a moment to moderate the conversation with Stuart McConachie, who's the course designer of the event in 2027. Stuart, are you with us? I think Stuart's there.
Yes, I am. Yeah. Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me.
Hello, Stuart. Great to see you. Thanks for joining. Also, David Bellairs, who's the Chief Operating Officer of Golazo, South Africa, who are the WMTRC delivery partner. David, wonderful to see you.
Yes, lovely to be with you.
And to finally meet you. We tried in vain a few years back to catch up, and backwards and forwards through the introduction from Phil Liggett. So great to finally meet you on screen. Thanks for joining us. And then here. Also, thank you. Toni McCann, who's a pro trail runner and also the ambassador of WMTRC 27. Welcome, Toni.
Thank you very much for having me. Excited to be here.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'm going to sit in the sidelines and hand the mic to Natacha and the three of you to have what I'm sure is going to be an insightful conversation. Over to the four of you.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah, thank you again, for being here with us, Toni, Stuart, and David. We had a nice conversation yesterday preparing to this webinar. So yeah, I'm very excited to host this conversation. So let's start, conscious of the time. So I thought that would be good, to start with Toni, not only because a woman, and I wouldn't miss this opportunity to amplify the voice, but also the voice of an athlete as well. So to give us some context as well about the World Championship in general, not so specifically on the Cape Town, not yet, just to understand a bit better for our audience to understand from your perspective, from athlete perspective, how you and of course other athletes that you are always training and competing with are seeing the World Championships, the World Mountain Trail Running Championships.
Yeah, I think from an athlete's perspective, Thailand was probably the first time that the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships had an impact on the trail community at a level that was noticed. Previously, UTMB and the UTMB circuit, and for the shorter events, maybe the Golden Trail Running circuit, has always been the race series that has kind of monopolized the sport, with the UTMB finals in Chamonix at the end of August always being the trail running event where everyone comes and shows up. The talent and the level of competition is always the highest at the UTMB finals. We have seen, however, that shift and interest grow in the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships, starting in Thailand with a little bit more momentum. And then Innsbruck, we definitely saw a bigger shift towards maybe a little bit more of a focus on that event. And then this year in Canfranc, it was probably in the long trail, the men's and the women's fields were probably the most competitive races that we had in the year. When people like Jim Walmsley and Katie Scheid prioritize the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships over something like a UTMB, you definitely see that ripple down and the interest being picked in a lot of other younger athletes and trying to make that a priority in their calendars as well. So it's great to see that there's more interest outside of just the classic UTMB circuit.
Yeah, it's very interesting to see. I think that everyone like felt like this, like after Canfranc. So, and yeah, it's important also to say that it's the third edition. It was in Canfranc in the same format that will happen in Cape Town, in a partnership that we are delivering. And I think that maybe David can also contribute to like with this idea now that we have the context, like what is happening about the World Championship. So, David, what was the main motivation for like to bid, like to host in the World Championship, or maybe why South Africa? So maybe you can give your thoughts on this.
Thanks, Natacha. I think it's more than just South Africa. I think it's about Africa. So while Cape Town will be the destination and Table Mountain will be the route, it's about the African continent and showcasing what the African continent can actually deliver in terms of major sporting events. Recently, we saw in Rwanda, Kigali, the World Road Cycling Championships delivered at a level never seen before. Absolutely phenomenal. And we're fortunate here in Cape Town that we have routes right on our doorsteps. The race village is probably about 7 kilometers from the international airport, as with the hotels and the infrastructure that'll be around there. So it is an ideal position for us to be in. Obviously, one of our stated aims is to get the African countries, all 54 nations, represented ultimately in 2027, and certainly making travel a lot easier into an African country from an African country with a number of flights. And certainly for those African countries, coming into South Africa is significantly cheaper than heading into the European countries. Our currencies take a bit of a pounding here. So we're hoping that we will see all 54 nations part of this. And we've got, I mean, there's been an incredible growth in trail running and mountain running here in South Africa. We have a healthy outdoor lifestyle way of life, as it were. And trail running is just very accessible. And in a country that battles from an economic point of view, it's an opportunity to get people out and on the roads. And this is just a wonderful way for us to highlight what we've got and get the population of South Africa and Africa out and on the trails.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Yeah, it's the first time that we are hosting World Mountain and Trail World Championship in Africa continent. So it's very, very exciting, especially for us that it's from the global south, as I am Brazilian as well. So of course it's very interesting to see this shift in our like major events as well. And talk about this as well with Stuart. Maybe you can also bring your perspective, like from your experience, especially with the UTCT, the Ultra Trail Cape Town, that it's coming next week, I guess. So you could bring to our audience your experience, like what are your expectations within this World Championship in 2 years' time?
Thanks, Natacha. Yeah, it's an interesting one. I think, from my experience, obviously, with UTCT, and I mean, we have a 30% international runner rate out of 2,800. So I do know, obviously, Cape Town's an easy sell, and I think it's just a case of getting people aware that the accessibility to trails, the size of the community, the diversity of the community here is, and really an amazing place for trail running. I mean, we've long kind of held the idea that Table Mountain could be one of the trail running meccas of the world because of that accessibility. There's a lot of trails here, and it's an easy flight for most of the world, I guess, especially Europe. And then obviously, like Dave spoke about, growing it locally and in South Africa, and not only in South Africa but Africa. That'll be an interesting part of it. We don't see a lot of trail runners, particularly in that space, joining us at UTCT, but it is changing. So yeah, I think by 2027, and obviously with the highlight of the spotlight being on the majors being here, I think it'll be good for everybody here. So yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's also nice to hear this. I think, like considering the accessibility, I think we spoke about this yesterday as well, like how easy it is. Like we have an iconic mountains in Cape Town, and then it, of course, like it's a good thing like for our World Championship as well. And I could also maybe link this with a comment that Toni also had yesterday regarding why, like about the community, about the spirit of the mountain and trail runners, like what trail runner, a mountain runner are looking for, like when competing. So why you think that it's like what we can expect, and why you think that it's so special, like in Cape Town, that maybe trail runners and mountain runners can have.
Yeah, I think if you look at where trail running and mountain running comes from, the roots of the sport and where it's grown from, so much of it is built off of two things: community and that want to explore somewhere new. And I think Cape Town offers really both of those things in abundance. Cape Town's running community, not only trail running, but road running as well. We've seen that with the Cape Town Sunland Marathon and how amazing the activations around that are. We see that with UTCT and the activations around that, the Tuesday trails where you have literally 400 people coming to show up to run a 7K route. It's just incredible the community that gathers around events like this, and Cape Town really knows how to show up in that setting. Truly one of the best running communities in the world. And I think, there's a comment in the chat just talking about how impressed they were with how friendly everyone is and how welcoming everyone is. And I think that is something that we are very proud of as Africans and as South Africans. We are a nation that really welcomes everyone. And I'm very, very excited about, the international trail runners who haven't come to experience that to get to experience that in 2027. And then from an adventure perspective, Cape Town, Table Mountain just offers such a diverse landscape, something that you really don't see. A lot of the trail running races and the big focus races in the trail running circuits are based in the Alps or in America, where the trails are incredibly beautiful, but relatively similar in a lot of aspects. And I just am so excited about the opportunity to show trail runners from around the world just how incredible Cape Town is and the trails there and the amount of diversity that they're going to expect. And I think that just speaks to that sense of adventure, that sense of exploration that really draws and drives why we run on the trails. You can go and run in some really beautiful places on the road, but that sense of connection to nature and connection to your community and the earth and the culture that you're exploring when you hit the trails is just really something very special. And I think, with UTMB being that major circuit every year, everyone gathering there, this just provides an alternative option for trail runners to keep that curiosity for the trails alive every second year. And I think it's a beautiful opportunity for the professionalization of the sport to still allow that exploration of new countries and new cultures.
Yeah. Yeah, I am very excited. Like I've never been in South Africa. This is a shame, I know, but I will be going soon. So it's very exciting, like to hear like about this culture and everything that you share already with me. And Stuart, I think that you mentioned yesterday as well, like this multicultural environment and the accessibility of the spectators. So as a World Championship, I think that we could use as a great opportunity, like to showcase even more the World Championship, and maybe there is some difference from previous editions as well. And maybe if you want to highlight how, for example, we can have this accessibility, why it's more accessible for a World Championship, and what Cape Town and the mountains can bring to the public and spectators that will be there.
Sure. Yeah, I think we've obviously looked at various routes and we haven't finished them, but the idea is obviously to allow runners to get into the bubble of nature, but to be serviced at the aid stations in locations that are generally speaking outside of the park, but within a really close distance to the park. And that allows us to kind of build a space where spectators and our partners can really be involved to showcase the connection to obviously to the sport, to the community, and like highlighting that community is an opportunity. You know, it's a very difficult sport to watch sometimes, but I find obviously the aid stations are a critical moment where the runner gets the support that they need before obviously heading out on a tough section potentially, but it also allows us to bring spectators into the sport to people who haven't seen it before, because it is a difficult sport to kind of watch. It doesn't happen in a stadium. The stadium is the mountain. So yeah, we're going to look very closely at how we can bring as many opportunities together to bring the community and the general spectator into the sport and to be involved as much as possible.
Yeah. And from a race organizer perspective, I think it's very interesting this as well. Like even like for activating the championship, for brands, for anything that we can highlight even more the championship. I think it's always good to have this opportunity. So it's interesting to share this perspective as well. So and coming back to you, David, I think that we are speaking like a lot of like these highlights from Cape Town, and you also like you show like what was the motivation, like not only to South Africa but also for Africa, and what are your perspectives with the event itself? What is the goal, like let's say in terms of impact that the LOC, this delivery of this event, like what your goal, like what your perspective on this regarding in terms of impact, social, economic, legacies?
So I think it was spoken about largely in the last presentation of the Sydney Marathon. Here's not a wonderful opportunity to showcase South Africa to the world and to showcase Cape Town to the world. More importantly, it's about building legacy. It can't just be an event that happens and then disappears off the calendar. This must impact positively on community. It's how we involve community in trail running and how we pass that legacy on for them post-event. That's going to be key. I think, and I'm going to digress very slightly, Stuart nailed it completely. One of the beautiful things about having it in the center of a major metropolitan city is that we've got in excess of 5 million people living in Cape Town. And we're now going to give them an opportunity to see some of the best trail runners in the world in action on their doorstep. And they don't have to travel more than 30 minutes to get onto a part of the route that they can watch those aid stations that Stuart spoke about. They're sections of the route that are reasonably accessible. And for me, that's about the athlete journey. How do we give the athletes not just an incredible experience in the mountains and in nature, but how do we give them the crowds? I mean, probably the highlight of my limited running experience was doing New York Marathon a couple of years back, and the vibe of having people cheering you along the route is just so special. And I think our elite athletes deserve that, and I think they deserve to have people out there watching them. And that brings me back to the legacy, because the more we can get community involved on the mountain, seeing what's happening, the more that will encourage them to get out. I mentioned it earlier. It's a sport that is relatively inexpensive to get involved in. We're involved in other sports like cycling, which are obviously far more costly, which allows people from varied communities to get involved at very little cost. And then obviously there's the economic benefit. Apart from the tourism benefit of getting the country out there, there is the economic impact of having people coming into South Africa to support the event and participate in the event. And as Stuart mentioned, we're on the same timeline as the rest of Europe and most of Africa. So a large portion of the participants are literally, it's a flight away and you're not changing time zones, which is so important.
Yeah, it's very, very interesting. I think that you also mentioned, because in previous sessions of this webinar series that we host, we also mentioned about the partnership, the importance of partnership, not only with government, but also with member federations. So I think that we are seeing like a work that has been building like together with the member federation. And I think if you want to highlight anything as a legacy as well, David, that you mentioned, like with this work with the member federation.
Absolutely, and that's been absolutely key for us, is working with our provincial affiliates working with the national body to look at constituting mountain and trail running correctly here in South Africa from the get-go. It's a fairly open situation at the minute with a large number of events taking place in South Africa, but no real structure from an administrative point of view. And I think this is an ideal opportunity for parties to get around the table and put together a system that's going to work for all involved, for the benefit of all involved, not just for the administrators, but for the event organizers as well. And that's absolutely key. They're all so integrally important in delivering events.
Yeah. And it's also, of course, I think there is an impact directly into the runners as well, into the athletes, because I think when the member federation is involved, like they want to do like potentially some projects related to the trail and the mountain running to keep developing. So I think that this is the thing. I think that it's new for a lot of member federations from the international federation perspective as well. So I think that it's very, very interesting to have this partnership, to have a successful event. So we are almost, please.
Yeah. So sorry, I think on that, I mean, this is 2 years away or a year and a half away, and we're already planning a long-term project which will include national championships and all Africa championships, all leading up to the World Mountain and Trail. And that's in the hope that for 2027, early on, we get 54 African nations competing in an all Africa championship, both to stimulate the sport and to get the African nations involved in mountain and trail running more than they currently are.
Yeah, this is also part of the legacy of this big project of the World Championship. So it's very, very exciting to listen. And we are almost like finishing our time here. But I would like to ask like to each of you what takeaways the public could live with. So if Stuart, if you can start like just show a minute or two, like just to make anything that you want to share, like to keep people interesting about Cape Town in 2 years' time.
Yeah, I think Cape Town obviously sells itself. There's amazing food, wine, obviously there's people running, and obviously we're all very excited and proud to be able to host the World Champs. And like Tony's mentioned, I think we have a very special part of the world which we'd like to showcase. So we're looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thanks, Stuart. Yeah. And next week there is the UTCT. So people who wants to see a bit more, you can follow. Yeah.
They can follow. Yeah. Well, they can come around next year.
Yeah. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
David.
Thanks so much.
Yeah. Thank you, Stuart.
Yeah. It's actually wonderful to have Stuart part of the team. I mean, he's arguably one of the preeminent race organizers here in South Africa, so it's invaluable. For me, it's very easy. If you're coming in from Europe, this is just possibly the best destination you want to come to, because our South African rand, you're going to be spending lots of, and it's going to cost you absolutely nothing. So I know, Toni, you're coming across from France, you're going to be having a ball when you get here. So it is a wonderful destination. And as I say, very, very accessible. It really is very accessible. And there's so much to do within sort of an hour or two of Cape Town itself, just apart from trail running. I mean, the mountains out near Stellenbosch are simply sublime. So for runners, both road and mountain, there is just so much for them. There really is.
Yeah. Yeah. And Toni?
Yeah, I mean, I think both Stu and Dave have given a really good kind of conclusion about why Cape Town is incredible, but maybe just speaking more generally about the World Trail and Mountain Running Championships. I think with the sport growing as it is and how rapidly it's growing, it really does set us up for really putting structures in place that help develop the sport. And I think Dave, again, has mentioned this, that Cape Town and South Africa has so much potential and Africa has so much potential. And I'm just excited that with the World Mountain and Trail Running Championships coming to the African continent, it does provide us with the opportunity to bring more of the African continent and more of the Southern Hemisphere into the sport. And I think if we are smart about it and if we work really hard, there's a really brilliant opportunity to grow the sport beyond, this 2027 Cape Town Championships to the next ones and the ones after that. And I think that for me is the most exciting aspect of the champs coming to Cape Town. People know Cape Town's incredible. UTCT has done an incredible job of promoting Table Mountain this year. The level of competition at UTCT this year is insane. If you haven't seen, go check out their Instagram page. They're doing their elite announcements now, and there's some really incredible athletes who are coming down this year already. So people know Cape Town's an incredible destination to come run, but I think this really gives us an opportunity to grow the sport within the African context. And I think that's a very, very special opportunity that I hope we capitalize on.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks so much for your insights. I think that for me as well, not only because I am super involved with this project, I am managing this project from World Athletics side, but I think that it's very important to be in Africa continent, to have all these perspectives on cultural diversity and accessibility and the spirit of mountain and trail running, just to spotlight those topics of the sport. So thank you so much, Stuart, David and Toni for being with us this afternoon, and good luck, Stuart, with the event next week. And thank you for your time, for making the time to be in super busy week. So thanks Toni, thank David, thanks Stuart, and Chris, it's over to you.
Thank you, Natacha, Toni, Stuart, and David. What an amazing segment. And for someone who was born in Zimbabwe and went to university in Pietermaritzburg in South Africa, find it very inspirational to see so much passion pouring through the screen there, a little bit like Wayne Larden set the theme with passion and enthusiasm tonight, and it's being continued. A couple of key takeaways. Love the concept of it's not just about South Africa, it's about Africa, and we see so much more starting to happen and emerge in the running space in Africa. And we'll be sharing later on in the segment the first Africa Running Conference taking place in Lagos in February next year. There was discussion around legacy, and that's a great opportunity that we'll see at the African Running Conference. But here as well, it's not just about putting on a one-off event, but creating a legacy that impacts and involves the community. We heard the opportunity for people, or the desire for people, to explore something, get in the outdoors, these amazing trails and the amazing imagery that no doubt is going to come out of Cape Town. So it's something that no doubt is going to be incredible. The focus beyond 2027, so beyond South Africa to Africa, beyond the event to the future, setting up a legacy, setting up some infrastructure and structure around the sport. Wishing that team all the very best as we move on to our next segment, which is another really exciting one. And again, we talk about beyond South Africa to Africa. We're going right across the globe in this next panel to talk about the year in review, global updates. We got 5 amazing speakers joining us, staying in Africa, but at the other end of the continent. Ayman Hakky, who's the founder of Trifactory. Hello, Ayman, joining us from Egypt, from Cairo, I believe. Wonderful to see you.
Hi,
thanks
Chris.
for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Coming across to my neck of the woods here in Asia, Tien, who's the general manager, MYLAPS Sports Technology in Asia, up the road in Kuala Lumpur. Hello,
Hi,
Sue,
good
lovely
evening.
to see you again. Let's duck back to the Southern Hemisphere and welcome representing South America, Latin America, an old friend of the show and MPW, Daniel Krutman, who's the CEO of Ticket Sports. Hi, Daniel. Wonderful to see you. Welcome.
Hi there, Chris. Nice to be here.
And welcoming from North America, and really excited to be welcoming Shawn Sullivan, who's the Executive Director of Running USA, who's literally been in the chair for, I think this is his first or at most his second week. Are you there, Shawn? Are you on screen? I thought I saw you there earlier. Shawn, if you wouldn't mind. There you are. Yeah,
Thanks so
wonderful
much for having me.
Yeah, wonderful to meet you and see you. Thanks for making the time. We won't put too much pressure on you, just a week into your job. We'll go easy on the questions, yeah?
Grateful for that.
And then let's come across to Europe. Greg Broekmans, Director of Running from Golazo Sports. So keeping the Golazo theme here from Cape Town to Brussels. I think you're in Belgium, are you, today?
Correct. Hi, Chris. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Greg. Wonderful to see you. So, folks, let's maybe stick with Africa because we came from there, and start with you, Ayman. But as a question for all of you, I'd love to hear, what are some of the themes? We've been seeing a lot about sold out events. We've been hearing a lot about ballots. We've been hearing about record sales, and that's really positive. But I've also been, and I don't want to put a negative spin on it at all. I just want to get a kind of a real view. I've been hearing of some struggles in the mid-tier. I've been hearing of some struggles in the bottom of the pyramid. So share us your full spectrum, share us your great stories, but also what else has been happening. What are some of those maybe challenges that are being faced? And we'll go around the table and hear that from everyone. But let's start with you, Ayman.
Yes, thank you, Chris. Honestly, we're seeing great progress here in Egypt as a start, and I think that applies to most African races as well. Since the COVID hit in 2021, the increase in the interest in running races and marathons in general has been growing year on year. This applies specifically to our biggest event, the Pyramids Half Marathon, which takes place for the 7th edition in next month in December. We're seeing an increase of about 30% in the number of runners every year. And that's, I think, significant, and it's higher than the average of the running industry around the world, which I believe is around 20% or something like that. So I think you're definitely right when you with the statement that the major running events are experiencing significant growth. Some smaller events definitely struggle, and that we see that in Egypt also as well. But the big events who have a major selling point, like the Pyramids Half Marathon, or other events like the Serengeti Safari Marathon, and other events in Cape Town, of course, like we heard previously, Marrakesh and Kilimanjaro. I think the African events in Africa, they have a unique selling point. They have a lot to offer in terms of sports tourism, authenticity, and great scenery with our events. So I think there's definitely a major selling point here, and also, as mentioned previously by one of the speakers, that they're more affordable. So definitely, I think the future is bright for the races in Africa, and you can see them, I think, really competing with the major running events in Europe and around the world.
That's wonderful, and yeah, that point that Greg made before. I mean, David made before, David Bellairs, the value of the currency, which makes it cheap holidays, and the opportunity to piggyback other experiences on that. Thanks, Ayman. We'll certainly come back to you in a little bit. Daniel, let's stick in the Southern Hemisphere and come to you. And I know you always have a whole bunch of data, so maybe just a couple of data points at this stage, and maybe weave some more in later. But in your business with Ticket Sports, you have a really great visibility of the industry across Brazil, but other parts of South and Latin America as well. Love to hear your insights.
Hi, Chris. Again, thanks for the word. Yeah, that's true. We brought some numbers to you, but let's take a overview on that. Overall, and it was expected, events are fighting more to get numbers, but in kind of a different way. I mean, the stakes are high, and the goals went high too. We saw less sold out events this year, but the growth is still intense. We had 27.1% of growth from 2025 to 2024 against 2024. And this is happening because of the emergence of hundreds of players. That's what we are seeing. We reached out more than 1,000 new companies doing races in Brazil in this year. So there are hundreds of new players, and the offer demand law has been too tight. So we are expecting to this movement of so many emerging markets, so many emerging companies have a little like fade in these next months in order to the market tries to like equalize this offer demand scenario. So there are a lot of people offering new races, but there are a lot of people racing. So, but it's not the equal. So we had 27.1 up, but more than 1,000 companies. So there is why we are fighting to get more registrations on each one of the events.
That's a fascinating statistic. And we were speaking a couple of months ago, and this was a bit mind-blowing for me, albeit in some ways not surprising, but I think you tracked over 8,000 endurance events put on by something like 7,200 organizations, which tells a story in itself. So many single run operators, a lack of aggregation. And I think the number that you said was only about 15% of those were profitable. So significant churn happening in the industry. So maybe just quickly, before we move on to give someone else an opportunity, are you seeing that the older, more established events that have been around for a while are sustaining, or is the business model becoming challenging that you're even starting to see established organizations that are struggling? I think you gave me a data point of, you look back on your database and 40% of events that were your clients 3 or 4 years ago were no longer in business. So this massive churn. Are you still seeing that happening?
A lot of good on being constant on having consistency, but I think now we are all struggling. Even the high level ones, not the peak ones, but the high level ones, which like it's not the peak ones, but they are usually good sellers, but they are struggling because there is so much offer. There is so much offer. It's like we're being discovered by everyone. So I used to say that someone wakes up in the morning and goes there and opens the window and looks through the horizon and says, I have a great idea. I will make a race. I will make a running event. So that's what is happening. Now we tracked already more than 11,000 events, endurance events in Brazil. I have the update on that number. It was 8.5. Now it is 11,500 events all over the country. So we are like inflated, and
yeah.
But it's like ups and downs. I think next year won't be like this anymore because, as you told us, 40% breaks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Some interesting points. Let's stick with the emerging market theme, and let's come to you, Sue, and get a perspective of what you're seeing in Asia before we come across to Shawn and Greg to get more of the established market perspectives.
Yeah, I think for our side of the world, the situation is quite similar. Timing chip sales for our office is almost at all-time high in the history of our office, and mostly contributed by large and established events in the region that demand for accurate and reliable timing. But what we observe is that the number of events went up since compared to last year, but the total number of runners being timed are reduced. That means each event are sharing less runners or time finishers. So this is worrying because the number of runners are not growing as fast as the number of events, and there are a mix of quality events in the market. So there is some kind of competition between events in this place, and we see in terms of segmentation of participation, male runners are still dominating the scene, but the biggest growth comes from female runners and also Gen Z. And people are nowadays also skewed towards destination running or tourism. They no longer want to run in the heart of the city where they work every day. It is the same place. So they are looking for a different place that is nice. They can have a nice getaway for a weekend and also run. So these are the trends that we're seeing in 2025.
Interesting. And so just to pick up on your point of more events, less timed runners, is there a sense that runners are not necessarily looking for a timed experience? Does that maybe explain it, or is it more just the quality and number of events is so thinly spread?
It varies from events to events. So there are large events. I wouldn't name them. They're large OG events. That they claim to have. I have 30,000 runners, but 10,000 of them come from the 5K runners, where they pay for schools and different families to bring like buses of kids or people to come and run. So these are not timed. And these people are also like new runner or new to the sport. So it really depends from events.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thanks. Let's continue now and go east to west and come through Europe. Greg, interested to hear what you're seeing.
Yeah. As a short introduction, we organize around a bit less than 100 running events. Mainly in Belgium and the Netherlands, but also in France, Germany, Switzerland, and some in Africa at this point. We've had our best year ever, 2025, but that's not only because of the growth of numbers of participants, but mainly because we were probably efficient also in entry fees. The big events did better than the smaller events. And we've raised the entry fees, especially on our full and half marathons. For the smaller events, it's a bit more difficult. So that's why we have our best year ever. However, we saw a number of participants that there was a bigger growth between 2023 and 2024. First part of 2025 was fantastic. We see since summer that growth is really slowing down. So I'm very curious, of course, for 2026. At this point, we see the same as we have in 2025, that big events are doing great. The sellouts are selling out. You can play with the entry fees, and there's maybe a bit of a struggle with the smaller events. I do also understand what Daniel is saying, and that's what we are seeing as well. And I think it's very typical, is that the market will be stagnating a bit, will not be growing that hard, but the number of events, and that's what we're seeing in Belgium, the Netherlands, the number of events is growing rapidly, more rapidly than the growth in number of runners. So that will be, for the lower tier events, a struggle. And our events, we have events between 20, 40, 50,000 runners, but we also have smaller ones with 3,000 to 4,000 runners in nature or in cities. So we see both aspects of the market.
Interesting. Thank you. And is that, from your perspective, kind of fairly uniform across Europe, or is it varying from market to market as well?
Well, that's what we see in Switzerland. That's what we see in the Netherlands. That's what we see in Belgium, and I think it's probably the same for all other countries. We've seen the same in France, also in our German events. So I think that, and as I see in the south, what Daniel is saying, with the number of runs is increasing, and the market is slowing down. So probably it's sort of a worldwide tendency, I'm feeling.
Yeah. And just one quick one before we come across to Shawn. Is that a little bit, Daniel explained it as looking out the window and coming up with a great idea and thinking, I'll put on a running event. So is that new players coming into the market predominantly, or is it existing players building a bigger portfolio or trying to build a bigger portfolio?
Well, it's a lot of new players as well. It's and amateur players as well. Maybe people who do other jobs in their daily life that have an idea and that are part of a running community and say together with some friends, hey, let's put on an event, and that don't have to be events of like 10 or 20,000 people, but if you have like 200 to 300 events per country extra with 600 to 700 or 1,500 runners, then they take part of the market, of course. So it's very widespread. It's like, I have the feeling like everybody has, with an idea, can start their own small business.
Yeah, low barrier to entry. There's a couple of questions in the chat. Thank you, Greg, and I'll come back to those in a moment because Shawn's been waiting patiently, and I'd love to give him an opportunity to give us a North American perspective, and then I'll come and take a couple of the questions, and then we'll keep moving. Shawn, what are you seeing in North America?
Well, certainly appreciate you having me on here in the first couple of days, and so many folks have provided me a warm welcome to the industry. And I chatted with our team, Michael Clemens, who heads up our research at Running USA, and he really shared that across the board, we're at about an 8% uptick in participation across the board here in the States, which is positive, of course. And we've seen those record numbers in places like Chicago and New York, and those get the headlines. But I think we're also feeling some of the things that Daniel and Greg have shared, where we are concerned with maybe some rising costs and want to make sure that we're providing as much education and engagement around how those startup companies that are trying to enter the field, enter the space, can do so in an appropriate fashion. So that's what we're seeing here in the limited time that I've been able to dive into some of that research, and looking forward to learning more, of course.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that. In any sense, and I don't want to put you on the spot because I know you're new in the role, how does that 8% compare to last year?
That's a good question. We're 8% up year over year, and I think that has been fairly steady on a trajectory in a positive fashion. But I think it has steadied a little bit. Yeah. So what I'm more meaning is 2023 to 24, and now 24 to 25 is 8%, and that trajectory is going upwards still, is what you're saying. I'll have to double check to give you the accurate answer to that one, Chris. Yeah, thanks. Sorry, didn't want to put you on the spot. Just wondered if you might have had that. No, that's great. Thank you, Shawn. Understood. Let's just pick up a couple of the questions here in the chat. There's one there from Fred Tresler. Is there a sense that in mature markets in Europe being affected by world instability during the second half of 25? Any sense of that, Greg?
From a participant point of view, at this point, no. But that could change, of course. We've seen in Belgium drones above our airports, above our military infrastructure. We don't know where they come from. So you could feel a sense that in the news, it's like problems are getting closer. But of course, the more far a conflict is away from your country, the less impact, of course. And at this point in Western Europe, I don't feel that it has an influence. From an economic point of view, probably there is, because of course, as we know, sponsorship are under pressure. The sponsorship market is under pressure, so probably there is an influence from that part. Although I have the feeling in general that the sponsor market is in a way always under pressure if we look at sales. It's but probably if there is any influence of instability in the world, it's probably at this point for us at the sponsor market. Yeah.
Sponsor market, yeah, interesting. Thank you for that one. Then there's one here from Chris Goldschmidt. I'm not exactly sure what country you're from, Chris, but are all of these new events registered with local federations, or is it a free for all? And my sense from all my years in the industry is it varies very much from geography to geography, and there's only really a few countries whereby events are even required to be. So in South Africa, it's fully controlled and every event has to have a license from the Athletics Federation. But I think in most parts of the world, there is not a need. If you have a label, then clearly you need to be part of aligned to a federation. But my sense is that in pretty much every geography, there's very, very few that I'm aware of that are controlled by the federations. Just a quick nod from others on the panel or shake of a head if you disagree with me. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah.
Correct. Yeah. That seems to be the case. Connor Davies, very interesting to hear this, the perspectives from different feel that the sport and industry should lead to a surge of new events and saturation of races. Okay, that's just a comment. South Africa, the same. Yeah, okay, I'll let you read the read the comments yourself. There's one here from Philip Mnkongoro. How do these events address public liability? Anyone like to comment on that one? Maybe Shawn. Again, it may be early in your reign, but I know that Running USA has programs and support events to be able to provide public liability cover. Is that something that you're ready to speak about at this stage?
Well, certainly in the space, insurance companies that are working in the space to protect race organizers, and I think we spoke about the importance of cooperation with local governments to ensure that that civic side is protected as well, both on the organizer side and the city side. And I think as long as those communication channels remain open and everybody is working toward that same goal of producing this an amazing event with tourism numbers, but also keeping athlete safety at the top of mind, where all boxes are checked in terms of that preparation, I think you're in good shape.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Thanks. Ayman, let's come back to you. And I want to talk a little bit about, we've heard lots of talk about growth, new events. When we were chatting before this, you spoke about, the concept of some of the new concepts, and I'm interested to have that as a general theme. So is it just 5Ks, 10Ks, half marathons, or are there a whole lot of new concepts? Is there anything that's sticking out? You spoke about High Rocks and High Rocks exploding. I was on a call with Alex or on a email exchange with Alex Rausch from High Rocks last week, and he's saying they're expecting 1.4 million participants next year. And I think from what I understand, that's up about 500,000 from this year. I think they were around about 900,000 or 1 million from the information I have. What are you seeing there? I know High Rocks is big in Egypt. I'm not sure where else it is in Africa, but what's your sense of, is it good? Is it bad? Is it cannibalizing the industry? And are there any new concepts that are jumping out at you?
Yeah, I believe that the runners, especially new runners, joining us from as beginners or the Gen Zers, you can see that there's a lot of desire for new experiences. Runners are not just looking for like regular running races like flat courses or personal best. They're looking for experiences and looking to have an entertaining concept and something more than beyond just a regular running race. And this has driven us to come up with new concepts for our events, such as the Glow Run, which is an evening run that takes place at the nighttime with neon lights and installations and music and all of that. So I think there's definitely demand for new experiences, and I think High Rocks has definitely attracted a lot of runners. It has managed to attract endurance athletes as well as CrossFit or strength athletes. And it's definitely providing some competition, I think, for the races. We have a lot of interest in High Rocks events from in our market in Egypt. We don't have High Rocks events yet in this region enough, but we're seeing a lot of people traveling abroad to take part in High Rocks and other similar events abroad. So this is definitely pushing marathon organizers to get creative and to add something more at our events, and we are definitely keen on doing that and putting a lot of attention and on building pre and post race experiences, as well as some fun elements on the running course itself to continue to be relevant and continue to attract runners to our events.
Thank you. So, sorry, my mistake. I thought High Rocks was there already. But so picking up on that theme of travel and experience, obviously we heard Wayne speaking about the enormous impact on tourism in Sydney. You spoke about the Pyramids half marathon. Are you seeing that travel happening inter-Africa, for example, or is it more Western-based tourists that are coming into Africa, or are you seeing more of a spend starting to happen with African runners starting to tour around Africa and come to new destinations and even going overseas? You just spoke about them leaving for High Rocks, but is it a bit of a general theme that's happening across Africa?
We're seeing more interest from Western companies, actually. We're getting a lot of incoming tourists who are specifically to the Pyramids Half Marathon, but from European countries mainly. France and UK probably are the biggest number of participants that we're getting at the Pyramids Half Marathon. Not seeing enough enough interest from African runners at the moment, and that's one of the reasons that's making me interested in the African conference that you've mentioned earlier. I think we need to build a much better connection amongst race organizers in Africa, which is definitely missing at the moment. I have much better connections with race organizers from Europe than I do with Africa. So I'm very interested in this conference and will do my best to attend for sure, and hopefully try to attract more runners from African countries to our events in Egypt, and also promote African races to our runners in Egypt as well.
Yeah, so this whole opportunity of collaboration and partnership, so powerful. Sue, let's come to you on that theme. You spoke before of lots of new events, but is there anything that's jumping out to you? Any particular genres? Any new ideas? And I mean, we're obviously on a running show, but that doesn't mean that it might not be around triathlon or duathlon or cycling or anything on that space. Any trends you're seeing, and maybe some hotspots that you're seeing in Asia, particular countries?
Yes, we have something different here. For the market here, we have many, I would say, young families, amateur runners who just want to have a nice weekend with their kids. So we do have events selling out really fast, like Pokemon Run, Mario Run, all these cartoon, and it's great opportunity to sell all kinds of merchandise. They are there not to race, not to compete with one another. They are there to enjoy the whole environment. The kids see nice Pokemon along the routes, and then they get to buy exclusive merchandise and enjoy the whole thing. So it's no longer something to raise a PB, but people want to engage young people. It's also a good platform for parents to introduce kids to like healthy activities. So in Asia, we have a lot of traction with these kind of events with cartoon characters, and you'll be surprised the turnout and they sell out in like hours. So yeah, that's what we are observing here in this region.
So those are those people that are taking away your timed events, Sue.
Yeah. Well, I get nice Pokemon cups, so
nice. Shawn, let's come across to you. Any themes in North America, and if not, any themes of particular new events? Any sense of the most popular distances where the growth might be coming from? That 8% that you spoke about.
Yeah, the half marathons and marathons are really thriving. I think that's something we can say for certainty. And but to the others, these theme races, the community events where maybe there's some lacking. I think that's the push and pull right now, right? For us as a membership organization, is how do you capitalize on the strength of those half marathon and marathon distances in the big markets, yet continue to support community events for all those reasons that we know are critical, creating that foundation of the future of our industry, those next group of runners. And so you made that great call about the families. I think there's great opportunity and strategizing around that. How do you, in America, we're so competitive. How do we create play? I think the idea of play and youth is a really big opportunity for us.
I love that. I think that's a really great point, and certainly, data that I've seen, and I think your Running USA survey is that less people doing it for a time or a personal best, but and we've heard the theme repeatedly already tonight. It's about authenticity, it's about experience, but maybe this is a category of play around families, borrowing, and that's what I love about these opportunities. We sometimes kind of look and say, well, what can we learn from established markets to take into emerging markets? But I think we often miss this amazing opportunity to take lessons from the emerging markets and do things differently in the established markets. Thank you, Shawn. Daniel, let's come down to you. Any sense of all that explosion of new events? Any themes that are coming out? Distances, the like? I know. We spoke 6 or 7 months ago, and there was a lot of the theme type events that Sue's just been speaking to. But in anything that you've got in terms of a trend?
Yeah, I connected a lot with what Sue said to us. And here we have also a lot of pop culture elements mixing up with running events. We actually are seeing the growth of every distance. On the entry ones, this mix between races and pop culture elements is rising again. We had Minions, for example, or SpongeBob races with tons of participants. One of them had 30,000 people in Minas Gerais, one Minions or SpongeBob, I don't remember. Also races that mix sports, such as like NFL races or Corinthians or Flamengo racers are doing very fine. They are selling out. On the other hand, marathons. The main capital cities are getting 2 of them, and the mid-sized cities are like releasing their own, always with several distance to choose, of course. But we have like 2 marathons for each one of the capital cities, and every single city with like 500,000 persons or even less are like releasing their own. So the name marathon is a big call nowadays. Even if it's not the main distance, what happens all the time.
So interesting, and that's a good segue for me into. I'd love to speak about challenges. We've got about 10 minutes left, just under 10 minutes. I'd like to speak about challenges. I'm hearing, and Greg's a great case study, which I wrote a LinkedIn post on, which got great engagement this last week of events struggling with permits, and to hear of a city now with 2 marathons is a crazy situation. For example, in Vietnam, Ho Chi Minh, I think, has 6 marathons, and those are genuine marathon distances. And so how does a city build, and Hanoi is kind of similar, so how does a city build that identity around a race? But in terms of the permits being created, I'm starting to hear anecdotally that in some countries it's getting more difficult to get permits, but you're saying there's now 2 marathons with permits. What's your broad sense, before we pass the baton on to the others, about permitting with all this explosion? Or is it still easy to get permits, or are people doing them without permits? What's the landscape? And just quickly, because we probably won't get back to you to give the others a turn, any other key issues that you see in terms of challenges apart from the numbers?
I will be quick on that, but last year we had less than 25% of all the events made in Brazil with the permit. We mapped more than 11,000 events, as I told you, and the Brazilian Athletic Confederation is in campaign to guarantee the permits on all events, but only 1/4 of them have it. The safety of athletes has never been such an issue of discussion. People are arriving underprepared or without health checkups, and so this is worrying us.
Yeah,
very quick, but I had a number. Yeah.
Thank you, Daniel. Wonderful to hear those insights. We may get back to you for one last quick point. Greg, let's come to you, because you had this situation, Brussels Marathon, 20 years, 20,000 participants, and the Monday afterwards, the city put out a press release saying that there wouldn't be a permit, it wouldn't be coming back for 26. That's one challenging situation, and happy for you to share as much or as little as you would like about that. But is it a bit of a trend that you're seeing in other markets in Europe as well? Is it becoming challenging to get permits?
Well, first of all, I think Brussels is a very specific case. If we look at throughout Belgium or the Netherlands, it really depends on the city and which politicians are in their role, or who is the mayor, or who is the alderman of sport. It really depends on which parties or has the power at that point. I think in general the public domain is under pressure. There are a lot of events. You talk about Ho Chi Minh having 6 marathons. Running is getting more popular, so there will be more permits asked for running events. And in some cities it goes really easy. They maybe have permits for up to 30 to 40, 50 different running events, and it's no problem. In some cities it is more difficult. I think in general the cities do still believe in the economic benefits, the health benefits of our events, and I think Brussels is unfortunately a very specific case. Although we sense some other problems in other cities as well, as for instance our Rotterdam Marathon, which has 18,000 marathon runners, and we want to increase that number because there's a lot more demand. Also there, the city government is saying that it puts the health system under risk, for instance. So struggling for permits in a way, maybe for having more runners or having a new course. I think for every organizer it will be forever a hassle. But in general, I do believe that most cities still believe that that the benefits are much bigger than the costs. Unfortunately, in Brussels it wasn't. Brussels is the capital of Europe. A lot of manifestations, a lot of summits. In a way, it doesn't have a really good image, so it's really hard to understand why they, after 20 years, why they say it's they don't want it anymore. They're right that the numbers of marathon runners on that specific event is not comparable with any major event or with any world marathon major. But there's a chicken of the egg story, because they give us a course, or they put us in a corner where the course will be too hilly, or the course is too hilly, so it's hard to attract more numbers. So it's a trajectory of like a few years where there were some problems with the city of Brussels. But I do hope, and I want to thank everybody for their support, even European Athletics, World Athletics. It's one single case, and it's good to feel the support of the whole mass participation community.
Thank you. Thanks.
We'll keep on fighting for that event. Yeah.
Yeah, no, important. And that was interesting. I think it was Rotterdam you said. I found that almost kind of ironic, the pressure on the health system. And I kind of get it in terms of ambulances and emergency services, but here we are making citizens more healthy, and an excuse that's being given is the pressure on the health system. So, it's a long conversation we could have, but for another time, and hopefully we'll do that in Ho Chi Minh at MPW 25. But this, getting the narrative right. Shawn, let's come to you on that one. Any sense of permit pressures, permit challenges, other challenges, economic challenges for the industry in the North American market?
I think the standard challenges within municipalities will always kind of be there, and those relationship building techniques with the race organizers and the local politicians and city offices, departments that facilitate those permitting. If the relationships are there, I think it's a process that can get done. The challenges that I'm thinking about and these are more maybe what I've just seen as a person around racing now coming into the role is just access and affordability into some of these races, and ensuring that that all folks have an opportunity to race, regardless of maybe their socioeconomic background. And I think as we look at how we can create that pathway for more inclusion, that'll be important for us moving forward, and something I'm looking at.
Yeah, that whole opportunity to engage the unengaged with, 1.8 billion people not getting the adequate exercise. We got about a couple of minutes left, so I'm going to really put you on the spot. Crystal ball, 30 seconds each. What do you see? In any particular thing, if we look in the crystal ball to 26 and 27, what are you seeing for the industry? Let's come and start with you again, Ayman.
Like I said, I'm very optimistic for the industry in 2026, based on the trends that I'm seeing here in Egypt and across Africa in the past few years. I expect the African races to really compete and to stand out. Very happy, of course, to see Cape Town Marathon hopefully qualifying to be a world major, and that will give Africa a major boost in the upcoming year. So just quickly, just to sum up, like I said, I'm optimistic about the numbers and the interest from sponsors and the backing of the authorities that's growing year after year.
The time for Africa coming. Wonderful. Let's stay in the Southern Hemisphere, how we started. Daniel, your 30-second crystal ball.
Okay. Well, for us, 2026 is a year of optimistic understanding. How much is the growth rate we're going to be like, our expectation is to have at least 15% of organic growth, with more injection of Gen Z people, more and more marathons, and even more people like changing lifestyle. The belief is that we entered the century of changing towards us, and every new beginning is going to prove it.
Wonderful. Very
That's my
optimistic.
word.
Love it. Thank you. Sue,
Yeah.
I think you're muted, Sue.
Yeah, 2026 is still optimistic for us. My point of view is that events have to have clear branding of what kind of event they are. Are you a competitive event for people to achieve PB, or are you like are you a Pokemon run kind of thing? Do you want to really engage with your runners in a different way? So, if you're somewhere here and there, I think slowly it will get filtered out. So events that is clear with what they do, and with a good engagement program with the runners and participants will remain in the market and will thrive. And those who do not put attention to these details, they will slowly just get flushed out.
Thank you. Greg? Thanks, Sue.
The bigger events will get even bigger. More people want to get in. Focus on half marathon, full marathon, and 10K road races. Younger crowd. For them, community is very important. So meaning running events have to be festivals. So we're going to put ourselves a lot of extra effort and funds into music, sheer zones with the running crews that are in the city, involve everybody in the city. So entertainment, get people along the route, just like Sydney Marathon is saying, is very, very important. I think the sense of belonging for a runner is very important. They want to be part of something big.
Fantastic. Thank you. Shawn.
Bigger results, making better.
Yeah. Thank you. Shawn, final word to you.
Sure. Yeah, just echo those thoughts for sure. I think it is that we're super optimistic here in the States of those key races we've discussed, the majors and everything, and now it's just pulling everything else up alongside of it. And I'm, as a competitor, I love watching how fast folks are going, whether it's the community race or the marathons. It is awesome to watch.
Thank you. Thanks for making the time. Wonderful to have you here. We're going to wrap that up. I was going to summarize, but we've got Alessio standing by and we need to get him onto the show. So a big thank you, Sue, Daniel, Greg, Ayman, and Shawn. Thanks so much for your time. Great conversation. Bye-bye for now.
Thank you.
As we welcome Alessio Punzi, who is on the road, should need no introduction to this audience, but just in case, he is the head of running and mass participation at World Athletics. He, I believe, is sitting in his car on the road. Welcome, Alessio. Wonderful to see you.
Very much so.
Over to you.
Thank you, Chris. And I apologize with everyone for the suboptimal setting here. Obviously, not the World Athletics office. Had to take the day off, but I really wanted to be here with you, albeit only for a few minutes, for a few updates from World Athletics, and also to thank so many participants for joining this webinar. It's really heartwarming to see these big numbers, considering, we personally, we were pretty late at advertising this. This really speaks volumes of how we managed to connect this community, and that makes us proud. Chris, I also have to praise you for the new studio. It looks fantastic. Well done on that. 2 or 3 rapid fire updates from World Athletics, Running. The first one is that we are launching the first ever Pokemon Run World Championships. As you might have seen, it's the World Treadmill Championships. We announced it a few days ago in Milan. We are teaming up with world leading treadmill manufacturer Technogym for the first ever actual World Championships in the sport. This will happen in 2026. When exactly in 2026 is still TBD. The most likely scenario is one in which we begin right after the Northern Hemisphere summer, with the finals then at some point in probably December. How will it work? In a nutshell, it will be 3 phases. The first phase, super wide. People wherever in the world will run 5K. That is the World Championship distance. 5K, wherever in the world they are, on a Technogym connected treadmill. It will be a wide face. There will not be checks and balances in place. We cannot have referees or World Athletics appointed officials in the literally thousands of clubs equipped with Technogym gear worldwide. So the first phase is just for people to take part in this. There will be perks, there will be a gamification system so that people stay engaged. In the second phase, will resemble more an actual sport, an actual championships. It will be regional championships. So based on the time that they have recorded in the qualification phase, people will have the ability to take part in these regional phases, at which at a preset date and time in preset locations with World Athletics or member federations referees, they will have to validate their performances on the 5K. The best, we believe, 10 men, 10 women. Probably we will do something with the age groups, but that is TBD. Top 10 men and 10 women will be invited to the finals, which will be in person in one iconic location before the end of the year. And the beauty of it is that the winners, or the top two of these men and women 5K World Treadmill Championships competition, will win a wild card to the actual World Athletics Road Running Championships. So stay tuned. More information will be available before the end of this year. The second bit of update is that we will be launching soon bidding processes for the 2028 and 2029 World Road Running Championships. Most of you will know Mark Hurst, head of bidding at World Athletics. If you have expressed an interest in hosting these events, you will receive the package as soon as it is available. If you would like to know more about the possibilities, cost possibilities, opportunities of hosting the World Road Running Championships 28 and 29, get in touch with me or Mark or Natacha, and we will point you in the right direction. Third update is that we have closed on Monday this week the applications for World Athletics Labels 2026, thanks to the hundreds of people, 3-digit, who have applied. As anticipated, we have received a number of applications for gold and platinum labels from marathons, superior to the number of slots available. So these days we are stacking up applications based on the criteria that were listed in the 2026 label road races regulations, and probably at the beginning of next week, we will be announcing who the platinum and gold label marathons will be for 2026, as well as start publishing the calendar for 26. While this deadline of Monday was strict only for marathons wishing to apply for gold and platinum, we invite races to apply for other labels as soon as they can. It will give us a better shot at organizing the calendar and the all-important anti-doping work. So thank you for that. And Chris, this was a bit of an update from us. Thanks for having us. And again, sorry for having to do this call from the car. Thank you very much.
Wonderful, Alessio. Thanks so much for making the time, and we'll be in touch again soon. Have a great rest of the day. Folks, from one World Athletics representative to another, delighted to welcome back Natacha Manchado, who has already done an amazing job hosting the Cape Town panel. She is the running project manager of World Athletics, and a topic which interestingly didn't come up on that last panel I thought would, but it has been a very strong conversation during the year, and that's the global explosion of running clubs. And we're delighted that Natacha is going to be joined by Sheyong, who's the co-founder of BiiB and RUNLIGA, doing an incredible job in Malaysia with Run Club there. Sheyong, you on screen?
Yes, Chris.
Welcome. Wonderful to see you. Thank you for joining us. And really excited to have Rosana Fortes, the country lead from Brazil for Strava. Really excited to be able to hear from Strava in some of the data and statistics that they're seeing around run clubs. Rosana, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm not just able to screen my video. Not sure why. I think I need permission.
All right, let's try and get that happening for you. But in the meantime, welcome. Thank you for joining us at fairly short notice, I understand, and really looking forward to there we are. We've got you on screen now. Really looking forward to hearing your insights. Welcome, and I'll hand the camera to all three of you to have a conversation and sit in the sidelines and listen. Over to you, Natacha.
Thanks again, Chris. Yeah, and thank you, Sheyong, and thank you, Rosana, for being here with us. I know that it was a bit like last-minute invitation, especially for you, Rosana. So thanks so much for making the time to be here with us. So yeah, let's talking about a bit about the running clubs, the crews on Strava. So I would try like to make this as a conversation so we can have like different perspectives from Strava, especially in Brazil, South America region, and whatever you can bring to us, Rosana, and Sheyong will bring us what is happening in Malaysia. And let's start the conversation then. I would start with you, Sheyong, just to maybe to have like a background of BiiB, like to help us to understand like what is BiiB and why you decided to create BiiB. So please share with us.
Thank you, Natacha. So, yeah, we started BiiB with a very simple question, like how we can create runners. Runners for us, for myself, we normally got introduced to running through a friend. So how can we bring actually, seasoned runners and people who just wanted to start running together? And especially in Asia, so when the running culture is still young, people tends to make running like a checklist, and that ended up like we're seeing runners come and go. Many actually stop after finish their first marathons, and worst case, they left running because of injury. So we built BiiB as a community platforms that turns movement into a shared purpose, and where we can see people coming together regardless of your levels to actually support one another. That kind of brings running into their life rather than, running is like a bragging rights. You just need to finish a marathon, show your medals, and done. So fast forward to days, we actually serving communities, corporations, and even government using BiiB to host inclusive team-based challenges where they form teams supporting one another to kind of make the whole experience different and creating more runners for the ecosystem. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I think that it's, of course, a different perspective from Strava, and especially maybe in Brazil. Of course, Rosana can talk much more about this. So maybe, Rosana, if you want to bring to us, for example, when started the crews or the running clubs in Brazil, like with Strava, I think it's a different perspective. What is the current scenario? So what we would like to share with us to complement this topic?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you for having me, Natasha and Chris. Glad to be here with you all. Actually, a coincidence is that I'm leading Strava in Brazil since 19, but I just joined the Southeast Asia team. So I'm leading Southeast Asia right now. So I just came from Jakarta Running Festival. So great experiences. And there are a lot of similarities between Southeast Asia and the culture that we see here in Brazil. So we saw, of course, as everyone, like a big spike coming from the pandemic. So right after, actually, right before the pandemic, 18, and right after, we saw like this boom, this spike. So if you open social media today in Brazil, it's like you just keep getting, tons of content around like running crews and people getting together to run. So something that is very like common in Brazil is, of course, the social layer. So people, very different from Europe. Well, I have my colleagues from Strava in Europe and the US. So very different here in Brazil. And I think in Southeast Asia, I think people love to get together. You need to get your selfie. You need to get your picture after training to make sure you upload in social media to tell your friends or community that you just did it. So that this is a very strong movement. So in the past, I think in 18, 19, what we saw is that Strava was mainly used for tracking. But now I think there is this sense of using our features. So we have a lot of like a new club features. So we try to build those features to get like to help club leaders to organize themselves. So instead of just like tracking at Strava and having other platforms helping you to get together, with very like tactical things like the invitation, the RS at VP. So now we have everything at Strava. So that's a big movement that we have been seeing.
Yeah, it's amazing to hear, and of course, like I can relate a lot, like as a Brazilian as well. So the social media in Brazil for sure, like it's something very different. But also, Sheyong, I think that you can also relate this with your inspiration, like to turn like running what is a usually an individual sport to something that is much more like collective. Like, what is the main inspiration and how BiiB is helping the community in Malaysia to achieve this?
Yeah, thank you for asking this. I think Rosana actually pointed out very good points, like how similar it is comparing Brazil and Southeast Asia. So our side, what we realize is, when people are active or kind of get involved in these running sports, they basically need a very supportive communities around them. People that I talk to, they stop running mainly because they are not with this group anymore. So maybe they have moved to other places and things like that. So we believe by solving that, it kind of, turn running into something more experiential, like something that they can do it together. So, and of course, the other part is inclusivity. So as we look through the years, we also realize that running has been moving from performance-based, like everything about timing, about PB, into something more into, having a good time together. So that kind of got us thinking like, hey, how can we create this experience for the communities so that they can do things together? Since they have formed the club, why not do things together rather than, hey, you go to the race, you at the stand pen together, after flag off, everybody just gone. You don't see your teammates anymore. You don't see your club members anymore. That's why we came up with this idea. Hey, can we actually turn this around to provide a different experience to the run club and to the running members? Yeah.
Right. So yeah, and Rosana, maybe you can also speak a bit more like what you are seeing in Brazil. Of course, we know that it's like this social media and people are using Strava not anymore only for tracking, but also with this component of socialize. And maybe we can bring us some comparison if you like, especially now that you are also leading in Southeast Asia. So if you wanted to bring, like, if you can see some different and what are the particularities of each region or countries that you are leading?
Yeah, sure. So Brazil stands out globally when it comes to the sense of belonging and celebration, everything around like social media, making sure that you spread the world about the what you have been doing. So that's pretty strong. What we see here, but I also just saw in Jakarta 2 weeks ago. So this is like it's not just about PB and all the clubs and the running crews. They are not they have like a part of the journey. So, for example, I saw like a big cheer zone within the Jakarta Running Festival, made like led by running crews. So most of the cheer zones, they were led by running crews. And after the race, like after athletes got their medal, they went to the club to start a celebration, the whole celebration, and was not just about the PB and the records and the pace, was around like having the community to celebrate with them. And that's something that we have been seeing here in Brazil a lot. So getting the example of Rio Marathon that we just had in June, which is the biggest race festival that we have in Brazil. So 3 days festival, but it's started now this year, with everybody trying to get their ticket, which is really really difficult. But like all the community involved. And regarding some stats, well, we are, I think, 3 weeks to launch our year in sports, the report that we have on a year basis, report that we have from Strava. But from the report that we got from 24, so there are some really good insights. So, for example, we see that almost 80% of Brazilians, they speak about Gen Z. They say that today they prefer to meet someone within a running, like a race or a running moment, like in the park, within their running community, instead of going to a bar. So I think that's why we see this movement of a lot of like beer companies coming to Strava to do some business because they're missing Gen Z. So the Gen Zs, if you go to Ibirapuera Park, which is, as you know, the biggest park that we have here in São Paulo, 5:50 in the morning, which is amazing. 6 a.m. in the morning, like full of Gen Z running. And of course, if they are 5:50, 6 a.m. in the morning in the park, they need to go to bed earlier. So I think they're like leaving the bars. So that's a great data that we got. And there's another data from like the interviews that we did. 1 in 4 interviews, they said that they met someone. So they're dating someone, they met someone, they met within like a race moment or like a crew moment, like a running movement. So that's some data that get us very excited. And I'm sure we're going to see something very similar coming from Year in Sport now 25th edition.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I was not part of a running crew, but I can say that I met my husband like running in the Ibirapuera Park. So maybe it was before, like just like the running crew, but I think that it's similar, like the situation, of course, we are seeing, but now we have data. So maybe, yeah.
Yeah, we are not. Strava is not a dating app for sure, but
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people here in this webinar already saw some kind of news saying that, yes, you can
Yeah.
meet people through Strava.
Yeah, it's very, very, very nice to hear. Like at least we have these stats now, and then we can talk much more about it. So, and Sheyong, maybe you can also tell us like what is the impact that you are seeing in your community in Malaysia and with all the running clubs that are participating, especially with the RUNLIGA. If you want to also talk a bit more about it to us.
Yeah, so that is actually what we have started. So before we built BiiB, so we had this idea like, hey, you know, if we allow run club to represent competitions, we basically create something like a league. It's like a championship, like a league where they can represent their run clubs and having their own identities. So when we built RUNLIGA, something interesting happened. Suddenly it kind of triggered team to show up, joining their weekly runs, how they can actually get connected to one another and also contributing their knowledge and contributing their effort into their team. So far we have served more than 400 run clubs in our region. And of course, not all of them are the glamour types that we have seen on Instagram and things like that. But they really showcase how community can actually transform, not just within the club itself, but also transforming people around them, their family members, their neighborhood, and kind of make the whole things like a movement. Some started in the neighborhood, in where they live, and some actually got attention like from some sports brands that's supporting their trainings, and also some kind of born out of, let's say, corporate sports club and also the university they are studying. So although they are coming from different backgrounds, doing amazing things at their own way, one things that really stand out and common among all of them is actually they build strong friendship. It's like Strava, you meet people through run clubs, and because they showed up every week, you get to know them a bit better weeks over weeks. They kind of unlock a lot more things, more friendship, more consistent in terms of their trainings or get together or run together. And end of the day, they participate in more races. I think that actually contribute back to this mass participation economy as well. Buy more shoes, and sometimes in our region we use the word like we poison people to actually purchase new gears, new shoes, new watches. That kind of happen within the run club itself. So we believe by focusing on doing our job well to support the communities, they will actually potentially solving the global inactivity issues because people go to the club that feel closer to them. People from not being active, because of these good vibes or good people around you, you make changes to your lifestyle. And then perhaps, community is a way to solve the global non-communicable disease issue from WHO. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's also important, I think, that again, like it became like much more stronger. Like if we think in all the partnership that we can have, as you said, like we could help like the level of activity, physical activity in the world. So I think that everything is connected in the end, and it's interesting, yeah, to hear that the similarities as well, like from Brazil and Malaysia. And Rosana, in Brazil, like we know that it's a lot of people like are already like engaged with Strava, with the crews. What do you see that Brazilians runners they are looking for? Like what Strava or the crews like can do more? Like what they want?
I think there is a great potential of like bringing this local passion from the running clubs, the running scene, to global experiences. So that's something that we always try to play with. So, so we have our verified program. So where, of course, in every single key market from Strava, we try to identify the most like important creators for Strava, athletes for Strava that are bringing the most amazing results for the platform, and we try to verify them. So this group of verified athletes is the ones that we try to spotlight. So verified athletes and clubs. And what we try to do, we have some examples from this year. We try to spotlight them through experiences. So, for example, we just launched in Brazil this program that now it's gonna go abroad, which call them Kudos Collective. Kudos is the like for Strava. So Kudos Collective is gonna be this platform of trying to every single month spotlight important club from our key markets and try to boost them with content, like a photographer, a video maker, some, like special swag, this kind of things that are important for them. So it's an event led by the club, but with all the support of Strava and of course some budget involved. So that's one thing, Kudos Collective. The other thing that I feel is super important is the global experiences with some brands, because the brands, they come to us, they see Strava as a way to connect the brands with the community, with the running boom, the running community. So two very recent examples. So one, Amsterdam Marathon. So we brought a group of creators together with a brand that is Mizuno. So Strava and Mizuno, we brought a group of creators to travel from Brazil to Mizuno Marathon and having this whole experiences of getting the BiiB, getting, of course, all the experience of a fancy trip, and of course, a lot of content coming from their platforms. And within the selected verified athletes, we had some club leaders, some crew leaders. So that's super important. So they could spotlight this kind of a content within their social channels. So that was Amsterdam, I think like a month ago. And New York City Marathon, so 10 days ago. So I was there. So we brought a group of club leaders and creators also invited by Strava. So we have this partnership for a while with New York Road Runners. So we have access to buy some BiiBs. So we bought BiiBs, how hard it is today to get BiiBs to run New York. So we have access to buy, and we invited some athletes to run New York City Marathon. So it was amazing experience for them. So again, verified athletes and some club leaders. So that's a way to approach them and to start and build this kind of a relationship. So again, I feel that this kind of a global experience and global, chance to be spotlighted. We don't have like a local Instagram account. Our only TikTok and Instagram account is Strava. So if you go to Strava, you're going to see a lot of content coming from Jakarta with our recent experiences and some local clubs like Manifest and Beyond, local clubs in Jakarta, and also the clubs that we spotlighted through Amsterdam and New York.
It's interesting because even though, of course, we know that it required like a lot of investments, like to have these actions, but we can see like the social factor that, of course, allows this kind of investment. So sometimes we only think about the economic impact, what we can do, and then we forgot like how to involve the community, the social factor. So I think that it's very interesting to listen to you with these actions that Strava is doing, because and then we cannot have the economic without the social impact. So it's very, very interesting to hear like this projects. And Sheyong, I think of course like in Malaysia is the same, like the run clubs are booming, and I guess that your BiiB, your platform, it's helping a lot this. If you want to just say briefly how is the on the ground in Malaysia this.
Yeah, I think just now Rosana pointed out some interesting phenomena which is also happening here. But outside, we kind of see Run Club more than a fitness trend. So they are basically more social tribes rather than a sports club or athletic clubs. So if we look back like 5 to 10 years, most runners they join Run Club mainly to train together. They want to break their barriers, get their PB and so on. But now, basically, what we see, the new clubs are not made for trainings. So it is a new form of outings and beyond just running together, being inclusive and welcoming to develop their own new identity. I think at the ground level, all clubs are different. They have their own characters, they have their own branding. Even the way they take photos, posting up content is totally different. So when performance is actually out of the table, this new club also, I think, on the ground, they are more collaborative rather than competing. So, way back in time, Run Club actually competing one another, see who produce the best athletes. But now, because it's not comparing about performances, they're actually more collaborative. Like you can easily host different crossover programs in different clubs, and the club members can actually travel around, joining other clubs, get to know the people there, get to know the running culture there, and so on. So I think we also see a lot of local collaborations. For example, like Run Club in the neighborhood, they work with the local cafe, retails, even co-hosting some events with the businesses around their city or town, which I think it totally changed the definition of Run Club, which used to be, labeled as an athletics focus or performance focused group. So I think across Asia, we also seeing more brands and also even local government property owners, like you own a big space and you actually started to look at run clubs, like how they can bring crowd to your venues. Of course, event organizers aside, that definitely is a leverage for race organizer to tap on this run club economy. But I think end of the day, it's a very authentic way. We have seen all these very authentic collaborations between the communities and the businesses around the region and around where they used to run and where they actually do their trainings. So to sum up, I think this boom is more than just fitness. It's actually about belonging, where they belongs to, what is their identity, and how that relates to their everyday life. So I would say any brands, any businesses can easily work with Run Club that is aligned with what they do and their positioning to actually, make this a very successful, I would say, support to the communities. At the same time, get your ROI actually, way better and also more authentic to engage with the people.
Cool. Yeah, and just like leading already to the end of our segment, Sheyong, if you want to give your takeaways, like even though we have like is spotlight what is happening, like what would be your like takeaways and opportunity in this scenario?
Right. So I think on our side, the current, I would say, big opportunity with the Run Club boom is actually building bridges. Like I think Strava do a very good job how to connect all the dots together, provide them global experiences. But at the local levels, I think our job as a platform is to provide a stage for them to get to know one another, having more local, I would say, engagement activations to put some of these amazing communities up front, get noticed, and that will kind of trigger all the other good things to happen down the road. And if there's one thing I could highlight here, since we have seen the numbers growing up rapidly in the whole world, but 99% of the races are still individually focused. And that's how we kind of position ourselves on RunLiga to be a community-focused race, that how we can kind of bring this run club around the regions, come in, engage, compete at the same time, but end of the day, you are representing your identity as a run club rather than individually. So they kind of fix the problems of, as a run club, you go to races, at the end of the day, you still race for yourself rather than race for your team. So yeah, that is basically what we do and what we are seeing as an opportunity right now.
Nice. And Rosana, just show as a takeaway, like our last minute as well. Yeah, if you want to say like some actions and of course some takeaways from your perspective to the group, please.
Yeah, I think as like Strava, we have a very like close eyes on communities. Well, communities is the heart of Strava, but like running crews, even like cycling clubs. So we are like taking a close eyes and trying to build new features. So the ones that I just mentioned, the new features that we just launched, and so is a way to approach those groups and try to build for them so they keep using the platform and knowing that Strava is in the heart of everything that they do. As for like an advice from my side for like race organizers is to keep a close eye, like try to build something special for them, can be like a cheer zone dedicated to the local running clubs so they can feel part of it. Even if you go to a major, like a big event like New York Marathon, you see that they feel part of it. They build, all the excitement around it. So can be exclusive access, some like iconic swag, connecting the race with the local running crews. That's super important. So we, as Strava, we have been growing through these clubs, through this community. So that's super important in the heart of the strategy, everything that we do here.
Amazing. Thanks so much, Rosana. Thanks so much, Sheyong, for being with us in this segment. And I needed to pass over to Chris, otherwise you know how it is the time. So Chris, it's over to you. Thanks so much.
And someone who's struggling to survive. And I think that one of the keys to this is very much around collaboration. I think the business model is quite flawed in many parts, and it's difficult for parts of the mid and the bottom of the tier to survive. And that obviously creates significant impact in terms of going forward. Sorry, I'm just needing a battery change here. Can you still hear me? Am I still audible?
Thank you. How much did you do?
Sorry, I just had a bit of a need for a battery change on the mic there. So I'm not sure how much of that I was able to share, but just Damir broadly making the point that there's a big focus on the marathons, but many of the smaller events are struggling. And I think that's a theme that I've been seeing for some while. The business model challenged in the mid and lower tiers, sponsors gravitating upwards, and some challenges. And how do we solve that was the question he asked. I think it's a lot of it is the possibility for collaboration, better data, better insights, telling a better story. We could have a whole webinar on that, but we need to keep moving. And I want to finish with just the final segment before I wrap up, which is just a quick rundown of a couple of conferences that are coming up. And let me just move over to a presentation that I'm about to share. Okay, so starting with MPW 25, which is kicking off in about or less than a month's time now, our 10th edition in Ho Chi Minh City. Our theme, moving from events to ecosystems, harnessing global headwinds to build our future together. We got some really amazing speakers, which I'll share. And a big part of this is a really exciting initiative that we've been working on for some time now. And we'll be launching Mass Participation Vision 2050 roadmap for input from the community and the various stakeholders. focusing on this idea of being the world's largest health movement. How can we better highlight that narrative? How can we get more inactive people active? We've been working with the likes of World Athletics with support from Alessio, the UCI, the PTO, Professional Triathletes Organization, TCS, Parkrun, the World Federation of Sporting Goods Industry. NUCO is a key supporter of it. A number of industry players. The idea of MPW kind of sitting at the middle of the wheel and bringing in as much collaboration and cooperation as possible. So we'll be releasing that at MPW conference, and trying to move the pointer here. So just a couple of conversation verticals there: health and well-being, innovation and technology, storytelling and narrative, destination and tourism, data investment and economic sustainability, participation, inclusion and accessibility, benchmarking and best practice, collaboration and best partnerships, and as I mentioned, Vision 2050. It is invitation only this year, and some of you would have received those invitations. If you would like to receive an invitation, just scan the QR code on the screen. That will take you to a page where you can fill in a very short application and have the opportunity to be invited. Here's a list of some of our speakers. I'm not going to run through some of them, but some big names in the industry. McCanachie, obviously a big supporter. Jeff Adams, who we mentioned before, President Marathon Tours and Travel. We will be running an hour-and-a-half interactive session on a tourism ecosystem, the opportunity for you to walk away with there, having understood how you can build a tourism ecosystem. A number of other speakers there that would be recognized to you. Charlotte, I mentioned earlier. Alex Bennett from the PTO, huge industry veteran, been decades in various roles in the industry, and a number of other speakers to be announced soon. As we move on to the Africa Running Conference, which I mentioned earlier, the first Africa Running Conference happening in Lagos on the 12th and 13th of February. There's a number of the speakers there. Alessio, I'm delighted to have been invited to be one of the moderators there. Hugely excited to be heading over to Africa and to Lagos, where there's an amazing running scene emerging, a mix of workshops, conference, the opportunity to attend the marathon, the Access Bank Lagos City Marathon, and a performance seminar. Scan there to register, and if you, for some reason, in any of these, if you need more information, please come through to me. Then we move on in September next year to the World Athletics Global Running Conference. Some of you would have been in Riga 2 years ago for the amazing conference there. That's the equivalent alongside the World Athletics Road Running Championships in Copenhagen. Here's a few key elements of it. Obviously, the running elements of it, the mile, the 5K, and the half marathon. The conference on the 17th of September, which is the Thursday. The opening on this Thursday, and then the conference itself, the World Athletics Global Running Conference on the 18th of September, and then on the 19th, the Saturday, the running events. So it was wonderful last time, and I have no doubt it will be the same this time. And then we move on with the European Athletics with Marco Vasic and his team to the European Running Business Conference. Amazing event last year in Athens. Next year, Porto 2026 in November. Some more details of that, the 6th to 8th of November in the beautiful city of Porto. And yet again, there's a QR code for you to scan there if you'd like more information. Can't recommend it highly enough. Amazing experience last year in Athens, and I have no doubt it will be the same in Portugal. And then the opportunity to be a part of the Porto Marathon on the day after the conference. 6th to 8th of November are the dates there when Porto and the European Running Business Conference will welcome you. QR code to scan there again. So that's pretty much it. If we can just take that one down and put me back on screen to do a wrap. Thanks, team. Thank you so much again for staying the distance with us. I think we're pretty close to time. We've had a packed program, 2.25 hours. We have been recording. We're live streaming on Facebook and live streaming into China. So if you joined us late and you need to catch up, have a look at the Mass Participation World Facebook page. You can pick up the live stream. As I say, we have been recording, and we will make that recording available. Thanks so much. I said at the top of the show, we had over 450 people registered. Thanks to those of you that have stayed. I think we had nearly 200 people on at the peak, and many will watch it afterwards. Some key themes again: community, collaboration, partnerships, the opportunity to leave legacy, as we heard in Cape Town, and some great optimism as we head into 2025 after 2026, sorry, after what's been an amazing year in 2025. Thanks again for your company. I'm Chris Robb, CEO and founder of Mass Participation World. Looking forward to seeing you again next year. We have confirmed that we will continue this partnership with World Athletics, hopefully seeing a number of you in Ho Chi Minh for MPW 25. And of course, reach out to me at any stage if there's anything I can help you with. Thank you so much. Good night, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you've joined us from. Thanks so much again for your company. Bye-bye for now.